Welcome back, loyal subscribers. So in this episode, I just want to sort of weigh in a little bit heavily, or just weigh into the Indigenous Voice to Parliament referendum, if that's what you want to call it. It's a bit of a joke. Once you sort of start looking into it on the internet, like digging, so you go onto like the federal government website, it is just absolutely full of, I don't know what you want to call it, mumbo jumbo. Like, it's more like, it's worded in a way that normal members of society would never, ever understand. Only like a solicitor or a constitutional lawyer or someone like that would be able to understand exactly what they're putting out. It's basically like MyGov. It's absolutely impossible to navigate. Normal members of society can't understand it. They make it deliberately as difficult as humanly possible for society to navigate, almost just so they'll get you just to close it. Well, just give up. Anyway, Indigenous Voice to Parliament. It's a bit of a joke. I know I've done an episode before called Referendum. Anyway, I've just been doing a little bit more digging, so I thought it constituted another episode about it. So just Google search, just for yourself. And I know technically this is what mainstream media are trying to get you to believe, that this is what it's about, but just Google search, are Indigenous Australians recognised in the Constitution? The answer is no. No, they're not. So just forgive me, bear with me, because I've just put a couple of notes together. So I'm just going to flick through a couple of tabs on the laptop here. So I've just got a couple of things written down. Anyway, let's just go off this one right here. This is just Google, right? Just Google it. Just Google it. Indigenous Australians are not recognised in the Australian Constitution. Pretty ridiculous. Anyway, the Constitution explicitly excluded Indigenous Australians from the constitutional process and from its text. This is a significant issue because the Constitution functions as a powerful symbolic statement of Australian identity and is the ultimate legal document in the legal system. Most people would be surprised and shocked to know that the Constitution also allows discrimination of First Nations Australians, i.e., they're not allowed to vote. That is exactly what it's. Well, that's my terminology, but there's all the legal mumbo jumbo in there to, navigate its way around making it sound blatantly racist, which of course it's blatantly racist anyway. Put it under the banner of colonial times and invasion and conquering and whatever. Take your pick of one of those, two of those, whatever. So, like I said before, you go on the federal government website that we pay for, like we're paying for the site, and the people who administer the site, the admin people who look after the site, blah, blah, blah. I could go on and on and on and on. So anyway, if you look at the Australian Human Rights Commission website, which is this one here. So if I could just navigate down to what I was looking at before. So this is one of the things we need to, hang on, I'll just go back to the document that I copied it to, so it's just easier for me. When the Australian Constitution was being drafted, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples were excluded from the discussions concerning the creation of a new nation to be situated on their ancestral lands and territories. The Australian Constitution also expressly discriminated against Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. The Australian Constitution did not, and still does not, make adequate provision for Australian First Peoples. So, having said that, are you surprised? Those poor people have had a boot on their throat for over 200 years. Systematic racism at the hands of the Commonwealth, back to the UK, and the federal government. It just keeps going. It's just ridiculous. So anyway, when you look into it, you start to look into it, and once I started to sort of navigate to a certain extent what exactly they were on about with this voice department, I know I do that a lot, don't I? I do that a lot, but there's a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit that we are fed and that we're meant to just fucking believe. Like it's. I'll try to stop. I'll try to stop. Anyway. So, in a nutshell, what I get from it as a normal member of society, and like, you know, a lot of friends and family know, like, you know, my family has, and I don't want to be one of these people. I'll just say this statement. My family has an Indigenous background way back. I do not claim Aboriginality anything, nothing. I know it's there, but my kids are happy, healthy. I'm happy, healthy wife. You know, I live in a nice house. I've got a nice car. I've got a full-time job. I don't need no. I don't know. There's other people. Obviously, there's other people like legitimate First Nations Australians who dead set need help, and the federal government's not helping. They're just using our taxpayer dollars to fund ad campaigns, pay members of parliament to talk about this and beat it up to the people and everything on our dollar. This is what you've always got to remember. It's on our dollar. So all that bullshit you see if you're dumb enough to watch free-to-air television, you see the ads on the referendum, vote yes, the yes campaign 23, you know, all this bullshit. It's legit bullshit. We fund it because we don't have a say where our taxpayer dollar goes, blah, blah, blah. We're all dealing with it. Anyway, so what I can sort of gather, what I did find on the federal government website, again, that we pay for, it's impossible to navigate. So, in recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first peoples of Australia, number 1, there shall be a body to be called the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice. Before I move on to number 2, let's just rehash the fact, well, I'll just remind you that Indigenous Australians already have a member for Parliament representing them, this Linda Burney. I don't know what, I really haven't looked into it. I don't know what connection she has to the land, number 1, but I don't know. She looks like of mixed origin to me. That may be a racist comment, don't care. I would like to see a full-blood First Nation Australian, and there's plenty of them out there that are professionals and lawyers and CEOs of businesses. There's plenty out there. Instead of some woman who stumbles, just look into it. Linda Burney, Member of Parliament question time, talk about stumbling. The woman is basically the equivalent of Joe Biden. It's hard to watch. It's embarrassing, number 1. It's hard to watch. And she should not be representing First Nations Australians. Anyway, let's not get off topic. Let's go to number 2. So I'll just rehash number 1. There shall be, this is what they're trying to enshrine. Sorry, I'll stop doing it. There shall be a body to be called the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice may make representations to the Parliament and the Executive Government of the Commonwealth on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. They may make recommendations. By the sounds of that's pretty dumb wording, I would think, because you could pick that apart. Like, they may make representations to the Parliament and the Executive Government of the Commonwealth. So does that mean it's going to get listened to? I would only imagine that if a suggestion was made by this body that is apparently coming through the referendum, I would only imagine that, well, I mean, the way I look at the House of Representatives, a majority of them are old white men. Old white men. Yeah, there's a lot of women because it's 2023 and the old white men were basically told you need to get women in there just to make it look a bit, you know, equal, which it's not. And I'm sure the women aren't getting paid like the old white men, but anyway. So if any of you have seen Parliament Question Time, it's like being in a primary school playground and a couple of kids having a disagreement, and then him and his group of mates and him and his group of mates start a yelling match. And it goes nowhere, and it's eventually got to be broken up. That's where the Speaker of the House comes in. Yeah, he's like the teacher who's in the quadrangle at the time and just happens to break it up. But these arguments in the House of Representatives and the Senate, they never go anywhere. The government has systematically put in place so much bureaucracy and red tape that when it comes to this representative to the federal parliament that is trying or may make representations to the parliament, it's going to get argued over and shot down and shot down. Maybe some things will pass. Maybe there will. Recent history has shown that important things don't get smashed through Parliament for the good of the people. It's for the good of for-profit organisations, i.e. banks, building conglomerates, insurance conglomerates, so on and so on. Not like a cap on rents rising or fuel prices skyrocketing or, none of that stuff's important to the federal government because, as I've said in previous episodes, we are a peaceful people. But the problem with being a peaceful people is we tend to wear it and just go, well, there's nothing I can do about it personally. And I have been that way ever since I was a child. It doesn't look like I can do anything about it personally. Hence why you're staring at my face right now, possibly listening to me or possibly flicking to another channel. Anyway, let's not get off topic. So number 3, the Parliament shall, subject to this Constitution, have power to make laws with respect to matters relating to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice, including its composition, functions, powers and procedures. The Parliament shall. The Parliament has the power, subject to this Constitution. Or this, do they mean this constitutional change? Because it's not a constitutional change. They're not recognising First Nations. This referendum is not recognising First Nations peoples as citizens of the realm. It's recognising this body, this voice, what they're calling the voice. So you can't see on their website what that looks like, what they're offering that body looks like. They're just calling it the voice. That's what it is. Not the show, like The Voice. There's no one singing here. No one singing. But by the sounds of that number 3, the Parliament shall, obviously, because they will always retain power in this situation, because the federal government can't give First Nations Australians too much power. Look at the American Native Indians. What did they do? Once they started pushing back on this type of shit, what they done is they started getting their land given back to them, and then they started throwing up casinos. And now a solid majority of them are millionaires, billionaires, but at least solid landowners, and they've got back their ancestral land. So over here, they're never going to do that. They're never going to do that over here. The nation's just too racist. Like I'm saying it right now, publicly. We are still a very, very racist nation. And that's because things like education, like the story of First Nations Australians up until now, has never been taught. Well, it's never been looked at positively. They've been presented like animals. It's just ridiculous. Very, very racist. Anyway. The Parliament shall, subject to this Constitution, have the power to make laws with respect to matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice, including its composition. So you're going to have power over what it's about, the functions, so you're going to have power over the rollout, powers and procedures. So the federal government's going to be the one putting puppets in power. The procedures, they're going to fill those procedures with bureaucracy and red tape up to your fucking eyeballs. Nothing is going to come of this that's going to be positive for the First Nations Australians. It's just not. We've got a government at the moment that is letting conglomerates like Rio Tinto blow up Aboriginal ancestral land with cave paintings. And what do they get? A couple of $1 million fine? Absolutely fucking ridiculous. They should be thrown out of the fucking country. Anyway, so I just wanted to do an episode just based on my thoughts at the moment, because that's the constitutional amendment there. That's 1, 2, 3 there. So you can look, you can go and look. That's the Australian government website there. Fact sheet, referendum questions, constitutional amendment. So you can go and have a look at it. The constitutional amendment right there, what they're trying to shove down our throats. I just want to say also, and I brushed over Linda Burney. Linda Burney is the Indigenous member for Parliament. They've already got representation. As shit as it is, they've got representation already. They've also got and I've been through it on another episode. They've also got idiots like Lydia Thorpe. Went in and agreed as a elected Greens senator. Didn't agree with some of the things that the Greens stood for, even though ran with the Greens. Doesn't really make much sense. It's like a deliberate thing. You get into Parliament, you can become an independent. Jackie Lambie done it, so on and so on. But you got Lydia Thorpe in there. She's hugely outspoken for the Indigenous community. She's the one there, fist in the air, feather in her fucking hair. She's out there beating the drum. She's also throwing herself on the ground in front of trans rallies, which, I don't agree with the whole trans movement, but members of Parliament, independent or otherwise, should not be throwing themselves on the ground. I mean, you're an elected official. It almost seems like I was having a conversation with a very, very good friend of mine who's become a bit of I don't know what you want to call him. He's become a bit of a sensei, I guess you could say, in regards to this channel. He's helped me a lot and he's given me a lot of guidance. But I said to him about the last episode when I mentioned Lydia Thorpe, and he said, "Do you think that's not by design?" And it just hit me like a freight train. Of course it's by design. How could you better discredit a movement for Indigenous Australians than have some imbecile like her throwing us, saying all types of stupidity, I don't know anything about it, but accusing other members of Parliament of sexual assault, and that person who was accused came out and said, call the police. If you've got a legit problem that you think that I've sexually assaulted you, call the police. But no, she didn't call the police. So other normal members of society who have been sexually assaulted, pretty sure would just call the police. Anyway, she wants to try and use her parliamentary powers just to rubbish this guy. It's almost like a personal attack. But anyway, when I was talking to my very, very good friend, he said, don't you think that's by design? And it just, like I said, it just hit me like a bloody freight train. There's no better way to discredit the movement than have someone like her representing them. Anyway, again, they're my thoughts. I only wanted to go 15 minutes, but this is creeping up to 19. But just, again, I say it every time. But please, let's start a conversation. Talk to me in the comments. If you've got time, please comment. Or if you've got someone who isn't a friend of the channel, you think that would dig this content, please subscribe, and share the channel, just to get this independent voice out there. I'm just talking like a normal member of society of things that I'm researching and I'm looking at, and talking to people who when I say, do you realise that First Nations Australians aren't recognised in the Constitution as citizens? Fuck citizens of the realm. Citizens. No, they're not. Of course they're in there. No, they're fucking not. So do a little bit of digging yourself before you hit the ballot box and vote yes or no on this. Just do a little bit of research yourself. I've sat down for a few afternoons over the last few days and come to my own conclusions that this is utter bullshit. And the government has just filled their website, again, that we pay for, with absolute bullshit that you can't navigate as a normal member of society. You would have to be a fucking solicitor to get your head around it. So anyway, like I said, You dig the content, likes, subscribe, and share. And please come back, watch again. All right, peace.